Okay, everyone, we're here with another episode of The Mind Show, and I'm joined by Mr. Paolo Spinetti. How are you?
Pretty good, Roy. And hi, everyone.
This is starting to get out of control, this whole AI revolution business thing. I mean, it is just, again, the last few weeks, and then there's this week. It's always the last week that's the craziest week. Just mind blowing. I've seen some videos, and I know you've seen some videos just in the last hours.
Yeah, last
That's
24 hours.
just completely shocking. So I've just got a few headlines that I can just flick to quickly. So, how about this? AI won't kill our jobs; it will kill our job descriptions and leave us better off. What do you think of that?
Yeah, it's based on what I've been watching and listening to, hardly even reading anymore, right? I have to agree, right? One of the things that I watched was how the general AI, what's happening now with what we're using GPT-4 with, is starting to see people really having that penny drop moment. I'm not saying everyone is. This is the thing, right? Okay, let me say this a better way. I seem to be finding there's two camps. There's people that are having their mind blown and saying, wow, even in the last week, this is just showing immense application and immense growth. And then I've got another camp, like my wife, and God love her, she's a wonderful person, is like, what's the big deal? I don't see how this is going to change my life or anything else. And I'm struggling to figure out how there is a second camp. That's what's blowing my mind at the moment. The first little thing that's blowing my mind. There's more about the jobs, but that's the first hurdle. It's like, how are there people out there that are thinking right now, yeah, it's pretty impressive, but so what? I don't see it affecting me. Not yet, anyway. Maybe in 5 years' time, maybe in 10 years' time, but there's still a lot of water to go under that bridge.
Yeah, I've had the same kind of experiences too. Like, just I don't know how you would what you would categorize it as. Maybe it's unprecedented. So, the most logical thing, if you don't really know, like, I don't know everything about it, but you would, I think there's a huge push to err on the side of, you know, let's just wait and see, or, if this is, this, it can't possibly be that radical based on, how the civilization's been living since, for how long, so I understand the checks and balances in people's heads that may make them think that way. That's just, let's just say that. But I don't know whether it's delusion or not.
No, I don't think it's delusional. I think there's a lack of knowledge around the technology, which
Yeah,
is fair
yeah.
enough. To be fair, I should have started with the intro, last week's intro, right? What is one thing that defines me? I love people. I love the diversity of people. I love the diversity of thought, the diversity of interest, right? It makes for a very interesting world. And I think we're seeing that play out in the diversity of thought, right? And not everyone has knowledge around this new technology, and therefore they're seeing it from a great distance. When I introduced it to the workplace and I showed, hey, let's write a letter to an employee for 20 years of service and rewards and recognition. Let's get some ideas from GPT. At that stage was 3.5. And I did it, right? I did it in front of them. I go, oh, that's pretty cool. You got to get me an account. So I set everyone up. And then a week later, I go, so have you been using it? Nah. Like, what do you mean you're not using it? Yeah. No, I will. It's like, okay. And then a week later after that, have you got it around asking it questions? Nah. and everyone went back to normal. And this is in manufacturing space, right? So these are plant managers, production managers, site supervisors, that sort of stuff. So I get that sort of sense, that world. But let's do a PSA, Roy. Let's do a public service announcement. How about we theorize on this show one profession? I'll start with, well, I can start with one, but if you've got one in your mind, let's give those potentially in the audience or those that are listening to this this vodcast, how that would change. One profession. Can you think of one profession where GPT technology, language learning models, how they're going to change and revolutionize?
Artists, they would. I mean, there'll be a lot more AI-driven artwork. So instead of spending, weeks or months on works, maybe some people still will do that, but a lot of art, especially if it's commercial art, is going to be through AI-driven prompting. And I've already seen some artists expressing their utter disdain at this sort of thing. So yeah, what else? What's one of yours?
I've been given this a lot. I've got a lot of time when I drive my kids to school and pick them up in the afternoon. I'm lucky enough I can do that at this point in my life, subject to change probably in 3 or 4 weeks' time. But anyway, I was thinking about it from a medical perspective, right? So one of the videos that you and I both watched was, I think it was dubbed, I think a Siri plus ChatGPT equals Jarvis.
Yes.
And essentially, for those who haven't seen that, is an individual's now talking to their MacBook Pro and getting their language interpreted by the MacBook, by Siri, in order to perform a set of instructions. I think they develop an application, if I'm not... It's a very simple application, but still an application that's basically real time, right? You see it happening real time.
Yeah, it's by McKay Wrigley.
Right.
Yep.
Now, let's extrapolate that. So I was thinking about people in Antarctica, or in particular, when I was looking at this maybe 15 years ago, when I was very interested in becoming a doctor, I was looking at what were some of the most extreme places in the world. Let's do some good. Antarctica has an outpost out there. Yes, there's the military base, but there's also Australian scientific outpost. And because it's so remote, right, so the doctor that's placed there has to be able to deal with any emergency, any medical emergency,
right?
Whether they could be a rotting tooth and requires tooth extraction. The doctor there hasn't been trained on every single possible scenario, right? We have specialization for a reason. And so there's a whole series of consultation that they have to do via video link, and potentially they could have life-threatening brain surgery that needs to be done, right? I think there was one case where the doctor there had to do some surgery and required to alleviate pressure in the skull and had to drill into the skull. I seem to recall that, and I can't remember if that was like 20 years ago. But anyway, my point is, take all that away, right? Let's simplify this. So you've got a microphone, you've got GPT or a better version of GPT running. Medical emergency happens. Diagnostic starts happening while GPT is listening to the conversation occur between the patient and the doctor, as opposed to asking the doctor or the doctor instructing GPT. It is now actively listening to the conversation, interpreting everything that's being said, and then at the end of that, the doctor turns around and says, GPT, what do you think? What's your prognosis? Gives it a list. The doctor looks at that list and determines from their own list, what was at the top. Are they aligned? Right? That's just a bare, simple change.
Because that we could already achieve that in many levels of medicine, law, and all this. It's like a helper at the very bare minimum.
At the bare minimum. Okay, so that's I call that phase 1. Okay, phase 2 comes along. What's phase 2? We're now in every single GP practice in Australia. and this technology has become accepted, and everyone's understanding that, when you walk in there, just like when you walk in and talk to your doctor, is a kind of silence, right? They have a duty to keep your patient records private, yet, and
Yes.
GPT follows that rule, right? And it goes, okay, Paolo Spinetti, your medical assessment is occurring now, and it starts happening as soon as I walk into that door. Now,
Yep.
let's say that the doctor knows, patients lie. GPT says, hey, listen, Paolo, I want to talk to your phone. Your phone actually has GPT on it. You've been walking around and in conversing and meeting with all different people. Can I interrogate your GPT on your phone? And I give it consent, the GPT in the practice, consent. So it starts interrogating. They have a quick conversation. It finds out, hey, we've noticed that there's been, you've visited, say, Central Circular Quay in the last 24 hours. Our health records say there's an outbreak that's going on over there. All of a sudden, your prognosis of what could be going wrong has just been updated with real-time data based on where you've been and what you're doing and who you may have interacted with. And you've suddenly got a very more accurate way of diagnosing what could be going wrong. And that could save a lot of diagnostic costs,
Yeah.
a lot of time wasting, and a better outcome for the patient. Now, I know there's all security issues here that I'm highlighting, but that's phase 2, right? And how far away from that, if we decide to go down that path? Months?
Well, look, this is something that you brought up, which is I want to talk about later on, about how we could transition jobs with AI, and a lot of people are worried about AIs taking their jobs, which it will. But you said that the AIs can assist the professionals, and I think that that's fantastic. That's a great way to go about it. So the AI is not interrogating the patient directly. It is the doctor or the nurse or the medical professional that is interrogating the AI and check it, like it's using it as an additional resource. So the responsibility is differs back to
A human.
a human, and that's good for insurance. That's good for issues in malpractice. Who to you know what I mean? It's like across the board. You want that level of checks and balances there, so that you can insert an AI into a profession, and it can be useful, but it also doesn't. We don't have to cover those hurdles of, a robot doctor talking to a patient directly yet. And then you have the opportunity of the medical professionals training the AI, and the AI will learn and increase its efficiency and accuracy that way.
And I think that's a safe approach for people that aren't familiar with the technology, to feel safer with the technology. Like, oh, look, it's benefiting, mum and dad who might be in their 80s and 90s with a better prognosis, right? It's helping, third. Let's talk. We're thinking about us in a developed country. Let's talk about countries that aren't so fortunate. Let's talk about other developing countries where they do not have access to medical professionals around the clock. Imagine the benefit that they get out of having essentially an artificial intelligence doctor to be able to assist in those remote consultation rooms where electricity may even be, running water may still even be an issue.
That's just, so it's like there's so many issues that can be addressed potentially with this technology across the board, but also where you've got a very limited amount of human resources, like a doctor in a country area or a third world country. You have these AI assistants and helpers that can extend the reach and productivity of the existing human doctors, so that one human doctor can be in, they may not be able to physically be in several areas at once helping X number of people, but with the help of AIs, like there's no, like, when you have no alternative, this is a pretty good alternative.
I
So you
agree.
can augment, and so that doctor, instead of being able to reach 50 patients a day, potentially reach, say, 10x to that, 500 patients a day, and help them perhaps in the same level of efficiency and outcome.
It's a probability problem, right? So if your outcome of a if your probability of a great outcome is zero,
Yeah, like
then
theirs is at the moment, yes.
then any number higher than zero is a better outcome. Um, Anything in the positive direction is a better outcome, and I think that's where I mean, if I was in the marketing department and I'll be thinking, okay, I'm going to get potentially, SWOT analysis here. What is the consumer feedback? What is the consumer's fears? How do we get them over the line? Well, we start helping them with this technology, as opposed to the fear factor associated with losing jobs. Now, like I said at the beginning of this, that doesn't seem to be an issue yet. I don't see people seeing this technology as that disruptive, where their job is on the line. But as that potential reality, becomes not a non-negative number, non-null number, I should say, non-zero number, then maybe that's where we start to implement or see implementation. Certainly by advertisement, it's in the forefront. But my sneaky suspicion is, just like with everything in this world, it's going to be driven and motivated by money. So I don't think it will be limited to just helping people. I think, let's extrapolate. Where would you see this technology being applied to, where it would save businesses money, but still wouldn't affect the number of FTEs that organization has? Have you come up with any scenarios where that could
Just
happen?
define FTE.
Sorry, full-time equivalent, or essentially headcount payroll. It's the most expensive in Australia, one of the most expensive costs when running a business.
Right. So, I mean, just came to mind, maybe Parliament. Still need the representatives. But
Yes.
now, where else would it keep the number of human? Well, any sector where there is a massive shortage of humans at the moment, I think would just augment. Like, for example, teachers.
Yeah.
Like primary, secondary school teachers, even in universities, they need more staff. And if these AI assistants can help, even, like, I'm sure they'll be able to help immensely. But even if it's, say, with some trivial insertions in certain subjects, 20%.
Yeah, administrative
huge.
tasks.
Yeah,
100%. I was thinking about nurses in particular.
tutoring, following up on evaluations of tasks and competency, quizzes, generating quizzes. It's just there's so many applications. So you were saying that oh yeah, that was one workforce. There was another workforce, but I can't remember.
I was thinking, so administrative tasks, nursing, I was thinking about that, the amount of paperwork that they have to do. If they could just, as they're naturally speaking, there's something interpreting exactly what they're saying and updating medical staff charts, summary of the patient, their diagnostics, etc., which is then, transcribed real time, and then is displayed as, I guess, it could, rather than print it off, right, save paper, it's actually a live feed near the patient's bed.
Yeah.
So the doctor can just quickly scan the notes, and it's there, right?
Yes.
No, I was thinking more, though, in the manufacturing space. So something that is dear to my heart, manufacturing. The blood, if you think about economic growth and GDP, thanks to China, when they entered the global market, we saw a significant impact in all of our lives with regards to cheaper goods, right? More available, cheaper goods. It was a big disruptor. And I think about this AI in that way, and I'll get a little bit closer to the GDP discussion very shortly, but keeping it simple. The amount of times that I look at manufacturing and the quality issue. So currently we have people running production lines, people running paperwork back and forward, yes, but they're actually physically doing something on that production line and monitoring something on that production line. And people are awesome, they really are, but they get tired, right? Some of these people are running 12-hour shifts, ambulance officers, 12-hour
Oh
shifts.
yeah. Oh, they're so overworked.
They're overworked, they're stretched. Their minds are potentially compromised by the long hours that they do and the disruption to their sleep patterns. Same with doctors. So you can start to see that, okay, I've got this technology not only helping me and keeping an eye on me, making sure that we consult each other, maybe even prompting me on certain diagnostics or diagnostic tools to use in certain circumstances. But in the manufacturing space, there's a quality issue. So we measure things with productivity around OEE. I had this conversation with a startup company at the beginning of this week. That's why I'm thinking around this. But how are we going to get that efficiency up? When you get that efficiency up, your cost to produce per unit drops. Right? What I said is it's about the money. It's always about the money. So you keep the same head counts, but now all of a sudden you've got an artificial intelligence that is looking at using your natural language models to interpret data in order to provide feedback to operators to make an immediate adjustment because they've interpreted something that the human hasn't been able to detect yet. And in that adjustment, they've saved the company money. They've produced a quality good for the customer. So less quality complaints, less this, less that. Customer service, etc., has an easier time, less paperwork, and it's a knock-on effect. It's a flow-on effect, just from one little technology.
So you've got AIs that can help with quality control, and AI can help with logistics, and an AI can help with, say, doctors and monitor their performance and make sure that they aren't compromised, and an AI can monitor patients. And making sure that they've taken the correct medication, that all the charts match up, etc. There isn't any errors in transcribing things, and there's a lot of paperwork in the medical field. So many charts, so many X-rays, so many bits of information back and forth between lots of departments, and there's errors that are made. What if a patient is forgetful and takes the same medication twice? I know there's a lot of checks and balances already, but I mean this is just. It just really streamlines the whole process. And then you've got the medical training. Then you've got just training in the workforce. There's just it. I mean, the list goes on. I wanted to jump in several times as you were talking, but
Yeah, sorry about that.
I
was on a rant.
Yes, I didn't want you to stop, but I was like, man,
A Russell rant.
there's so many things. I tried to. I think I remembered about half of what I was going to say, but that is just so impressive, and we haven't even thought of like 1% of what's going to happen realistically.
Yeah, this is Paolo and Roy, two minds combined at the end of a work day, right?
Yeah,
We're not paid to think about this. We're not a part of a think tank. But if we're thinking about this, we're not the only ones.
yeah. And there was a tweet. I think I saw Peter Singh. He quoted some tweet by. It was retweeted by Diamandis from SpaceX, and it was about the first. There's going to be people. They will take these new AI tools and just grab the companies that aren't AI savvy and create a very stellar product, maybe create a subscription service, SaaS, whatever it is, and make $1 billion before anyone can blink an eyelid.
Yeah, true. But I also
First
feel
movers.
that before they even also become redundant in their own application.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? It's like they're going to make the tool and then someone else is going to make that tool redundant. It's like a giant race now. It's just on.
I get that sense, and then when I think I listen to podcasts or I listen to people talk, I always take a step back and go, okay, hang on a minute. What is your interest? What is your motivation? Where did you come from? Oh, okay. You're trying to promote, you're part of a business that's trying to develop a certain app or a certain application built on these learning language models. I think I was listening to one guy, I don't want to say their name, right? Because I don't want hate for the individual, right? And
Yeah.
I certainly wish them all success. But you could see that they were trying to angle towards private data, right? The language, basically what they're saying is, these are the APIs. This is what's publicly available. This is working off public knowledge. But then companies want to have privatized data. Therefore, they will want a private version of GPT, and that working off private information so that their insights are their own and that the model becomes smarter, but for, let's say, IBM or just IBM, or for Knauf in manufacturing, just them. And then their competitors, they don't have those same insights, so they still contain that competitive edge. But then you're going to have this blend between a general model and what's publicly available and the private data, and who knows what that will, what's the result of that? Who knows?
See, I think that before it used to work because the level of innovation was very comparatively slow compared to now. But I think that if you're just hedging your bets against the general AI now, it's just a losing proposition. It's like if you put all your money into some proprietary private AI model and think that that's
you still have to train, right?
yeah, and then you think that that's going to be ahead in 6 months or a year when you've got the rest of the world working on the general version. I think that it's just you're not going to be able to keep your privately train your LLMs and your AIs to do the stuff that benefits your business, yes. But if you want to create something to on-sell to others, I think that is scary because, you'll just wake up one morning and your model will be superseded, and the amount of money that you would have to put in to get it to be one step ahead of the general open source versions would be a lot because
the guy was saying it takes millions to train, or at least, so the company is basically training specialized AI for specialized industries.
Yeah, there's a few. Like, for example, OpenAI, I think they're training GPT-5 on 25,000 NVIDIA processors, GPUs, and they will train them for months.
Yeah.
And that's something like $200 and something million, $250 million worth of just the hardware alone.
Yeah.
So it's not cheap. And, the timelines, they're really, really short now compared to, when you invest to when you want to get out, because, everyone else there's a lot of people that are doing the same thing as you and they might be onto something 10 times better.
Yeah, and you're just not aware of it and you just sunk 250 mil.
Yeah.
Although I think OpenAI is in a safe position, to be honest. I think they can sink that much.
Well, there's some rumors going around that they may have already achieved AGI.
Yeah.
And they're sitting on it and they're using the AGI to figure out how to launch AGI successfully.
And the suspicion in me says that's probable. There's a part of me that says I've watched Sam Altman and his fear factor, how he's communicating in the public realm indicates to me that there's something that's made him afraid. So okay, my opinion, right? Full disclosure. I'm not a psychic, right? And if I was, wow, I'll predict the markets. I would have seen this happening and I didn't. So but I do love human emotions, and I do try and read human emotions, and it's just something that when I see him have interviews and they come across the topic around artificial general intelligence or anything to do with the, will this lead to our destruction, he gets scared and he openly says he's afraid. What's making him afraid? What's making the people, the leaders in this field, this emerging field, and they're all saying the same thing: we have to be scared. We should be scared. This is fundamentally changing the world before you see. It's better. It's more impressive than the industrial age. It's more impressive than one podcast was saying than the wheel. More impressive than the invention of fire. Right. So if these are fundamental things that have changed our evolutionary process as a human race, and these are the guys that are saying this, and they're in this field, and they're showing fear, we really should be paying attention
Yeah.
and taking heedance to this, right?
Yeah, there's the alignment issue with AI, and then there's bad actors,
Bad actors?
like human beings that would use AI to do bad things.
Oh, okay.
Like,
Yeah, agency is towards evil.
yeah, I mean, just like with email and spam, computer viruses, 0 day. There's more 0 day exploits now, twice as many now than 6 months ago or 3 months ago. The number of 0 day exploits has doubled, and
I wonder what's helping that happen.
I wonder what's helping these people figure out 0 day exploits. Can't think of anything that
No, there's no
help them.
fundamental technological change there.
So that's
ESET must be really upset.
yeah. I mean, look. So this is you know, my brain just shut down just then.
Yeah, it's a heavy topic.
This is a heavy topic, but we're going to come back. I'm just going to stop for now, just because
And have some water.
I have some water.